few observations from our recent China study tour, which was fantastic. I mean, literally the best experience of my life, without exception. Firstly, our tour went apparently for around about 25,000 kilometres, which is apparently equivalent to what the Great March of the Communist Party was when they were in the middle of their civil war prior to their victory over their own domestic fascists. So, they did 25,000 kilometres on foot. We were in aeroplanes, on trains, in buses, and yes, a significant amount of walking. Personally, it was made harder for me by my spinal damage and other injuries. For some of the other members of the tour, they were, more elderly in terms of being sort of 70 plus years old. So, although we travelled a much smaller distance, it was challenging. Now, these people, they went further while malnourished, while afraid of being attacked by various forces. They went the whole distance on foot. So that is astounding, and if that tells you anything about the commitment of people to freedom, their courage, it is beyond understanding without doing it. I mean, our experience while an equivalent distance, and I can try to imagine what it would be like to doing that on foot, there's just no way to imagine it. I have hitchhiked an enormous distance in Australia. I once slept on the side of the road on top of gravel with cars and trucks going by all night, trying to stay warm. So I do know what hardship is, but still, everything pales in comparison. And so that really blew my mind, and that was brought home especially by the final meeting we had, which was with an elderly gentleman who had attempted Everest, lost his legs, saving another man's life due to hypothermia and frostbite, but then continued to attempt Everest and eventually conquered it at an elderly age with no legs. So, if you want to know people that you should admire at the very, very least for their courage, then please admire the Chinese people. Now, if you look around their country as you visit city after city, what you see is that, they have created, on top of their old ancient buildings, immense skyscrapers. So they still have some of the old cities around. They still have various monuments and ancient city walls and all sorts of other things which the new cities have kind of grown around, and they keep these things as tourist attractions and remembrances. So it was amazing to see that blend of the old and the new, and to really drive home just how long this culture has been around and how long they have understood principles of masonry, metallurgy, and various other sciences around engineering. So they are a brilliant people and have been a brilliant people for a long time. Now, I personally fell in love with Taoism somewhere between, say, about the ages of 10 and 13. And so for me, going to China felt like an oasis intellectually, and it felt like intellectually my home, because I could see the way in which that Taoist philosophy had affected the culture, even if many Chinese people might themselves not be that familiar with Taoism. So yeah, it's a brilliant place. I would say go. Seriously, you've got to see it. The people are generous beyond measure. I mean, okay, fine, I was part of a tour where we had some special members of the tour, and so maybe we were treated quite well because of the nature of that tour and its importance. Even if we were only a small contingent, and the people who are part of the Australian Citizens Party, might not be a major party, but at least they were supporters of the Australia-China relationships, so perhaps we were treated better in that regard. I mean, who knows, but the point is, what you do see anyway is the generosity, is the courtesy as well. When you hear the stories about the sort of, dominating social control system and surveillance and so forth, look, they are under economic attack. They are at threat of proxy, bogeyman, terrorist attacks sponsored by the West. Any sensible government in those circumstances would have enhanced security. And as you go through the airport, sure, you will see it, but don't believe the stories that it's all about social control. No, it's not. It's just a sensible measure against the potential provocations and attacks which, they have to allow for. And what you will find is that security people, far apart from our own, in our own home countries, they are very, very courteous, very polite, very respectful. They do not do it as some kind of dominating thing where you feel like you are going through a security check. it's just, that they do what they do, and then you're on, and there's no disrespect involved. So, yeah, I would just argue, go, enjoy it. Don't be freaked out by those security things at airports, because what you will not see in the rest of the country is that there is any sort of continuation of this in everywhere you go, that you're constantly being spied on. Look, we have speed cameras, we have security cameras all over the place in the West. They have their own fair share. I would argue that, given the potential for attacks against China by Western-backed forces, they actually have a lot less of it than I would expect under those circumstances. It's just that when you go through security checkpoints at airports, that yes, it is, very strict, but it's also very courteous, very polite, and it doesn't feel remotely uncomfortable. And I can tell you from personal experience that I had in Melbourne Airport a male security officer effectively sexually assault me, right? Those little hand wavy things, the security metal detectors, whatever they are, this guy was waving it in front of my crotch in public with my trousers partly down, and when he didn't get a response from it, he intentionally tapped it on my cock. He did that again. When, like the first one, did it again. Then took me into a private room where I was asked to take my pants down even further, where he continued to do it multiple times. So we have sickos employed in security in Australia, and they have decent human beings employed in China. So don't believe a bloody word of what you've heard, okay? It's a great country, it's an amazing culture, they are generous, they are courteous, they are decent human beings. Thanks.